This is my first journal entry, and I'm going to be discussing the characteristics that I have seen so far in the observations. I have been watching YouTube videos. School is not in yet, so I've been watching videos on children who have autism spectrum disorder. In particular, I've been looking at trying to understand what the characteristics are in these videos and trying to identify them as to, what does it mean for a student to have autism spectrum disorder. So we have some of the social impairments, some of the speech and language impairments, and then the repetitive and or restrictive behaviors that we can see, and in those we'll also notice some of the sensory issues. So looking for those characteristics and then looking at the students or children involved in these videos, I've been particularly watching a boy named Alistair, and I've actually followed from when he was young and first being diagnosed to as he's been aging. So from diagnosis to, let's look at some of the characteristics we see in just him over a 5-minute period, and to try to understand and identify all these things this information he's actually giving us about autism and so on. So anyway, I have learned quite a bit. What I've done is I've tried to put those some of the behavior that he's exhibiting, I have put them into the 3 different categories, and I've tried to understand, okay, what is it about what he's doing? What are these social things that are would bring to light what would be expected from someone with autism. I've done that also with his speech and language communication. What are those characteristics? How can I sort them out when I look at Alistair? And then also, what are those repetitive or restrictive behaviors, and how does that show? What are those little cues he's giving me that he's, showing to me that there's some autism characteristics, or just what does he show to me that makes me know what's going on? And then as I get to know these things, it's what would my strategies be to then work with him? So that's for another video. But as far as what I've learned from Alistair, I have noticed that, let's say there were, I'm just going to say 10 areas. One, in the social communication and all of his impairments, he appears to be uninterested in playing with others. He seemed to reject or ignore some of the cues given to him by his parents. Staying on topic was not easy for him. And he didn't make eye contact through some of the questions and ways that his parents were trying to get him involved. He did some of this ignoring and lacking the eye contact. If I looked at his speech and language, I found that there was definitely a delay in vocabulary development. As he grew a little bit older, even following directions was a little hard for him. And he would repeat words. His parents actually discussed one example where he repeated something for 20 minutes. And some of the questions they would ask, he would repeat, or he would not answer it. There would be a delayed response. Finally, in the repetitive behaviors and restrictive behaviors, some of it was what his parents said and told in the video. Other things were observed, but some of the observed things I saw were that he had the different motor movements, especially with his fingers, kind of moving them, flicking them, flapping them. That would happen. And repetitive questioning, and some of that, immediate, some of it is later on. One thing that was kind of new is I recognized, I didn't know how to slot this in together, but that the sensory issues are actually put under the repetitive behaviors and the restrictive behaviors, so that at least I knew where to put those in the category. And so within that, Alistair's banging his head, and he's having meltdowns. Sometimes those meltdowns last up to 2 hours, or up to 2 hours. Sometimes he's acting as if he's in a lot of pain, but it seems to be just this behavior in the meltdown that goes on for a longer period of time than other children might behave if they were just angry and upset they didn't get their way. Another one is sometimes he would lack response to things, and it could be that there's a lot of things going on in his head, so that it's a little difficult for him to kind of filter through all of that to give an answer or follow a direction. He had trouble with foods, and sometimes just the textures, sometimes just the lack of variety. And then some of the clothing is an issue, so much so that they would have to turn clothing inside out to avoid tags and different linings and so forth within the clothing. So the videos have been very helpful, especially in just my awareness of how to kind of categorize each issue and kind of understand where the underlying, what I'm watching and how to explain it. I think that's very helpful for the next step in trying to help figure out how to work with it. So there you have it. I will include some of these videos inside my slide, and then hopefully look at these again and kind of understand more clearly all of the characteristics that I've been looking at in this journal entry. Anyway.